The United States of America is often remembered as a nation born in revolution, its identity forged in the fires of war during the late 18th century. Within just 2 centuries, it would rise from a collection of rebellious colonies to become one of the most powerful nations the world has ever known. Victorious after 2 world wars, economically dominant, technologically advanced, and militarily unmatched, the United States stands today as a global force. Yet the story of America does not begin in 1776. Long before independence was declared, before colonies existed, and before European ships crossed the Atlantic, the land itself carried a history thousands of years old. To understand the United States as it exists today, one must look far beyond the Revolution and explore the deep and complex past of the continent itself. Archaeological evidence suggests that the first humans arrived in North America more than 15,000 years ago. During the Ice Age, massive glaciers trapped enormous volumes of water, lowering sea levels and exposing a land bridge known as Beringia. This frozen corridor connected modern-day Siberia to Alaska, allowing groups of hunter-gatherers to cross into the continent. Over generations, these early inhabitants migrated southward, following animals, adapting to new climates, and establishing the earliest human presence in the Americas. As the climate warmed and glaciers melted, rising sea levels submerged the land bridge, isolating these populations from the rest of the world. Over thousands of years, these early inhabitants evolved into countless distinct societies. They adapted to forests, plains, deserts, mountains, and coastlines, becoming the ancestors of all Native American nations. Their cultures were deeply tied to the land, shaped by seasons, rivers, animals, and the natural world. Contrary to long-held misconceptions, these societies were not primitive. Many developed complex political systems, spiritual beliefs, agricultural techniques, and trade networks that spanned vast distances. One of the most remarkable early civilizations was the Mississippian culture, which flourished between the 9th and 16th centuries. Centered around the Mississippi River Valley, these people built large cities supported by agriculture and trade. Massive earthen mounds were constructed for ceremonial, political, and burial purposes, some of which still stand today. The city of Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, was once home to tens of thousands of people and was larger than many European cities at the time. Its influence extended across much of eastern North America. Meanwhile, in the arid Southwest, the ancestral Pueblans constructed complex multi-story dwellings made of stone and adobe. These structures, often built into cliffs, demonstrated advanced engineering and deep knowledge of their environment. In the northeastern woodlands, a powerful political alliance emerged, known as the Iroquois Confederacy. Comprised initially of 5 nations and later 6, this confederacy created a centralized system of governance based on representation and consensus. Their political structure influenced later thinkers and is believed by some historians to have shaped early ideas of American democracy. For thousands of years, these civilizations thrived independently. That isolation would end dramatically with the arrival of Europeans. Around the year 1000, a Norse explorer named Leif Erikson was blown off course while sailing from Greenland. He landed on the coast of modern-day Newfoundland, a land the Norse called Vinland. A small settlement was established, but conflict, distance, and lack of resources caused it to fail. Europe would not return in force for another 5 centuries. During the Middle Ages, Europe enjoyed thriving trade routes connecting it to Asia through the Silk Road. Goods such as spices, silk, and precious metals flowed westward, enriching kingdoms and empires. However, when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453, these land routes became difficult and dangerous. European powers began seeking alternative sea routes to reach Asia, unknowingly setting the stage for global transformation. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, sponsored by Queen Isabella of Castile, sailed westward with 3 ships. Guided by inaccurate maps and flawed calculations, he believed he could reach Asia. Instead, he arrived in the Caribbean, marking the beginning of sustained European contact with the Americas. Although Columbus never reached North America, his voyages opened the door to exploration, conquest, and colonization on an unprecedented scale. Spanish and Portuguese expeditions soon followed, mapping coastlines and claiming vast territories. Europeans referred to this land as the New World, unaware that it was already home to millions. For native populations, European arrival brought devastation. Alongside conquest came diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza. With no immunity, native populations were decimated. Historians estimate that up to 90% of indigenous people died within a century of contact. Entire cultures vanished before they were ever documented. As populations collapsed, European powers expanded their claims. Spain established colonies throughout the Caribbean, Florida, and much of South America, conquering advanced civilizations and extracting immense wealth. France focused its efforts on the fur trade, building alliances with native tribes along the St. Lawrence River and Great Lakes. The Dutch established trading posts along the Hudson River, creating a prosperous colony known as New Netherland. England entered the race in 1607 with the founding of Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in North America. Tobacco quickly became a profitable export, but plantation agriculture required enormous labor. Initially, labor was supplied by indentured servants from Europe, individuals who agreed to work for a fixed period in exchange for passage and survival. Over time, this system gave way to something far more brutal. By the mid-16th century, a transatlantic trade network emerged, connecting Europe, Africa, and the Americas. European ships carried goods to Africa, exchanged them for enslaved people, and transported them across the Atlantic under horrific conditions. Those who survived were forced to work on plantations producing sugar, tobacco, and cotton. Slavery became deeply embedded in colonial economies, particularly in the southern colonies, laying the groundwork for future conflict. As European empires expanded, competition intensified. Britain and France became the dominant powers in North America, and their rivalry erupted into war in 1554 over control of the Ohio River Valley. This conflict escalated into the global 7 Years' War. Britain emerged victorious, gaining vast territories, but the cost of war left the British government deeply in debt. To recover financially, Britain imposed new taxes on its American colonies. Taxes on sugar, paper, tea, and legal documents were introduced without colonial representation in Parliament. Colonists protested, boycotted British goods, and argued that taxation without representation violated their rights. Tensions escalated dramatically in 1770 during the Boston Massacre, when British soldiers fired into a crowd, killing 5 civilians. 3 years later, American patriots dumped British tea in Boston Harbor in protest of continued taxation. Britain responded by tightening control, sending more troops, and restricting colonial self-government. In April 1775, British forces marched to disarm colonial militias. At Lexington and Concord, shots were fired, marking the beginning of the American Revolution. Colonial forces united under the Continental Army, led by George Washington. In July 1776, the colonies declared independence, asserting that all men were born with natural rights to life, liberty, and self-government. The war that followed was long and uncertain. Early victories were rare, and defeat seemed possible. Everything changed when France entered the war, providing supplies, troops, and naval support. In 1781, American and French forces trapped a British army at Yorktown, forcing surrender. 2 years later, Britain formally recognized American independence. The United States faced a new challenge:
how to govern itself. The Constitution, ratified in 1788, established a federal system of government. The Bill of Rights guaranteed individual freedoms, and George Washington became the nation's first president. The young republic expanded rapidly. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubled the nation's size. Exploration followed, settlers moved west, and indigenous nations were pushed from their lands. Under President Andrew Jackson, forced relocations led to widespread suffering and death, most tragically during the Trail of Tears. Expansion continued under the belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the nation was destined to span the continent. New territories reignited the debate over slavery. As tensions grew, southern states seceded, leading to civil war in 1861. The conflict was devastating. Millions fought, hundreds of thousands died, and the nation stood on the brink of collapse. President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing millions of enslaved people. After years of brutal fighting, the Union prevailed. Slavery was abolished, but Lincoln was assassinated shortly after victory. The nation entered a long period of rebuilding and reconciliation. By the late 19th century, the United States emerged as an industrial and imperial power. Overseas conflicts expanded American influence, and by the 20th century, the nation was drawn into 2 world wars. These wars reshaped global politics and elevated the United States to superpower status. The Cold War followed, defined by rivalry with the Soviet Union, technological competition, and ideological conflict. The space race culminated in the first human landing on the moon. At home, civil rights movements challenged injustice and reshaped American society. The 21st century brought new challenges, including global terrorism and shifting world dynamics. Despite contradictions and struggles, the United States remains a nation shaped by resilience, innovation, and constant change. Its story is not finished. It continues to evolve, shaped by its past and driven toward an uncertain future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep history of America, don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore more epic stories of nations, wars, and civilizations.